Okay, welcome, George.
Hi.
And I'm with George Reburn for the Business Success podcast. And George, you're director of Planet
Yep.
Devices, and the reason why we're here, all right, it was just a phone call I had
It
with
was,
you know,
yeah.
and we were just talking, and I was just amazed that you're a Plymouthian.
Mhm.
You went
Yep.
to Plymouth University.
Did, yep.
You've worked with some amazing companies, branded companies,
Mhm.
and you started up your own business,
Yeah.
and you found a little niche in the market, which is this device, this Planet Devices stuff
Yep.
for your heat pumps.
That's right, yeah. So we
Why have you done that? Why have you why have you jumped from the security of employment, at a young age, go into self-employment? You've got a partner, and you've got four people who are shareholders in the business,
Mhm.
a team of
Yep.
four, which is quite amazing what you've achieved already. Why?
Well, I mean, I'm still not entirely sure myself. Because like you say, you lose the security, but you gain so much, so many more interesting things, and there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the challenge, and so does my business partner, and the guys we work with. Brilliant team. It is challenging, it is stressful, but the rewards are greater as well. So I guess it's always been something I wanted to do, and I thought, well, I don't have commitments,
Yeah.
of massive commitments. I'm just going to go for it.
But your background really is mechanical engineering.
Yes,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And it's just quite a leap. So have you always had an interest in green energy and sustainability and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's always been. I think more recently, it's been really important. But the guys I also work with have a shared interest, which
Yeah.
is really good. I think if you're going to embark on something as drastically different to what you're used to doing,
Yeah.
you've got to have a real underlying passion for it. And I think to see so much waste in every aspect of life, it's really difficult to ignore it. And our generation as well have been put under the spotlight for using too much energy and
Yeah.
and not being.
It's my generation's
Well,
at
it's a
fault.
previous.
It's not your generation. You're solving the problem.
Well,
We
yeah,
caused the problem.
I'm getting older.
Yeah, but I think we caused the problem, my generation,
Yeah.
and we need new thinking to actually, to improve the situation that we're in.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot more that we can do rather than just not use our kettle as often, and
Yeah.
drive our cars less often, our petrol diesel cars
Yeah.
less often. I think that we really need to do as much as we can. I think there is also an underlying feeling of guilt that we all kind of have, our generation kind of have, and so yeah. But beyond that, it's nice to enjoy doing what you're doing, but also
Yeah.
it has a real knock-on effect, and a real good knock-on effect.
So this is Plant Devices. So if you can see this, okay, it's quite small,
Yeah,
and it's for heat pumps.
it's a little box of tricks. Yeah,
So what does this do?
so the idea is that heat pumps are installed
Yeah.
into a house by an installer, and quite often they're designed at the time for the house at the time, and then over time things change. So
Yeah.
houses will have insulation fitted,
Yeah.
or they'll have internal walls built, for example. But as the house gets more efficient,
Yeah.
environmentally efficient, energy efficient, obviously the design of the heat pump is skewed slightly. So there are a lot of benefits to this box. This little box, it's allows you to monitor
Yeah.
an installation. It allows you to control an installation. It allows you to see faults and problems with an
Wow.
installation. Yeah, it's quite a diverse little thing. But mainly it's for the continued analysis of an install. So what we're trying to say to installers and also to consumers, that once it's installed, that's not the end of the story. You need to know from the point of installation for the next 4 or 5 years, potentially through its warranty period,
Right.
how it's performing and
Yeah.
what external factors change the way it performs. in the area that you live, the temperature changes throughout the year. And ultimately for the consumer, that will mean greater cost savings. So you'll be spending less money on electricity.
Okay.
But for an installer, it's beneficial for the reason that they can continually adjust and optimize an installation to perform as good as it can for their customer.
So this little device, okay, it goes with the heat pump.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can control it from your mobile phone.
You can, yeah. So we offer there's various tiers of control. So for an installer, they would have potentially they can choose to have control over the heat pumps that they've installed.
Yeah.
They can choose to pass that control to their customers if they
Yeah.
wish. That customer can then do the basics, so they can change the output from the heat pump. They can change the setting of the room temperature in the house. But the majority of the control would be done by the installer, because the installer is qualified to know which bits need tweaking, which bits need optimizing to save their customers the most money, effectively.
Yeah.
So it allows them to do everything that you could do in person, but remotely. So as you say, an app on your phone, a portal on a website. So to give you an example, of how an installer can use this remotely, we have a guy that we're talking to who is they own a relatively small installation company, and they install a particular heat pump, and they know that after a week of install, fresh install, they'll get air bubbles in the line. So
wow.
Yeah, so it throws a fault. So the actual heat pump has a problem.
Right.
So for an installer, that means jump in the car, drive an hour, potentially more, to the customer, switch the unit off, switch the unit back on again, and the fault is cleared.
And clears the bubbles.
Clears the fault, and effectively the problem goes away.
Yeah.
But if you look at that from the installer's point of view, it's an hour, 2 hour round trip potentially. The fuel, the cost, time, everything adds up. So to be able to pick the phone out of their pocket, switch it off from their phone, switch it back on again, the fault goes away. It's done within 30 seconds.
So they can actually fix that remotely.
Yep. Just from the comfort of their office or their home, even. So
when I went onto your website, Planet Devices,
planetdevices.com,
.com. Well, www.planetdevices.com. That's quite right. When I went onto that website, there was a really good fact sheet that you can download. I think one of your engineers actually created that fact sheet.
James, James has put together a really, really cool little information sheet. It's aimed at mostly installers, because it's sort of speaks to installer and how it would affect them and how it would benefit them. But also there are some bits and pieces in there that sort of are aimed at the consumer. So it shows a bit of both worlds, really. But that information sheet has what the device does, how you can use it, how you sign up, all the additional bits and pieces you can bolt on to the kit. But the majority of the focus on that information, and also the information on the website, is the coefficient of performance, which is something called a COP, which is heavily used in the industry to monitor how well a heat pump is performing. So it's touched on in that document, but it's well available on the internet.
Well, I can only understand part of that document, mind. So I picked up some what I could. There's a lot of technical stuff in there that actually would be good for the engineer or the qualified plumber or whatever.
But ultimately, if you were to boil it right down, then a COP, as I say, it's really saying, how much money am I saving? How much money am I, is it efficient enough? And so it's the amount of energy you put into a heat pump and the amount of energy you get out of a heat pump. So the bigger that number, the better it is, the more efficient it is. So to give you an example, heat pumps are supposed to be replacing gas boilers for obvious reasons. A gas boiler can vary anywhere between 0.8 to 0.9 efficient. So it's about 80% efficient, which is 80 to 90% efficient, which is not great. On average, heat pumps are about 300 to 350% efficient. I mean, it
Right.
varies considerably with
Yeah.
manufacturer and the environment it's in and the house it's fitted to. But it's considerably better than a gas boiler.
Right.
So
I'm in trouble. I've got a gas boiler.
yeah, it's time you upgraded.
Yeah,
I
think
know
so.
a guy.
Yeah, certainly.
So so to have a COP of around 3 is considered very good.
Yeah.
And so this device will continually monitor the COP of a property
Yeah.
every 5 seconds. And that's averaged every hour. It's averaged every day, every week, every month, every year.
Yeah.
And so not only can an installer go in and monitor their handiwork and see how well their installation is going and make changes if required, but also a customer can have live feedback of how well their installation has gone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of helps both sides, if you see what I mean. A customer can see what they've paid for.
Yeah.
An installer can see how well their engineers are performing and their installers are performing. But also it means that an installer can, if they're feeling brave, can guarantee to a customer based on historic data using this device a particular COP, a target COP.
Yeah.
Which is a really huge selling point, especially when there's a lot of competition in this market. Lots of installation companies given the grant recently. So
there's a lot of heat pump. I didn't realize there were that many heat pump manufacturers.
Yeah,
but this actually covers all of them.
It does. Yeah, it's manufacturer agnostic. So we've designed it in that way so that you can fit it to, I don't want to say any heat pump, but almost any heat pump.
But it's There's about 150, 160 or something.
Yeah, there's probably more than that. It's too many to count. But I mean, we've obviously researched. We haven't tested all of them, but on paper, it should work. We have various field tests going on with various manufacturers. But yeah, currently over 160 heat pumps we currently support. And that's only growing with every day that we work on it. So
I'd never believed there'd be that many.
Yes, many variants and models and makes.
And this is models made all over the world.
It is, yeah. This is all the big boys, all the big names household names that you would know: Samsung, Panasonic, Hitachi, Mitsubishi,
right?
But and Valent, of course, a German company. But it's the trick to it is to make sure that we speak the language that they all speak. Right. So rather than have a particular heat pump locked down, or a customer is locked down to using that manufacturer's cloud service or information service online, and then have, for example, solar panels that are locked down to another manufacturer.
Yeah.
You have to log in here to control your heat pump. You have to log in here to control your solar panels. What this does is it brings all of that into one place. So you log into one place, you can see, monitor, control everything from one central location.
That's amazing. So so literally, instead of using 2 websites or two different apps,
or 4 or 5,
in some cases, can just do the one, and it'll combine all that information into one app.
Yeah, absolutely. And because we offer the control as well, you can set up sort of rules and things. So quite often the people we work with and speak to are often really frustrated that they have this fantastic battery in their home and this fantastic state-of-the-art heat pump and some brilliant solar panels on their roof, but they can't get them to talk to each other. So there's this real missing aspect of this. So you've gone to the expense and the time of fitting all of this kit, and you can't really utilize it as best as you could because none of it talks to one another. So it's trying to fix that problem.
So the target market for planted device for this monitor.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, we offer it to anybody that wants it at this point. So we're focusing on installers.
Yeah, of course.
Because installers have the technical background and the technical knowledge of how all of this works. And from a business perspective, for an installer, it makes complete sense. I mean, the cost of fitting one of these, you can make that money back in one trip you've not had to make down to fix a unit. So to have all the fault codes and everything come on your mobile as opposed to having to go to site. Yeah. But of course, those installers will then sell it sell the idea, the service to their
Yeah.
customers as they see fit.
Because all heat pumps have to be serviced, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they
Right.
do. I mean, most heat pump manufacturers will insist on a service throughout the period of their warranty.
Right.
So let's say, for example, we fit an LG.
And this will record the fact that you've had the service.
Yeah. So our whole system, excuse me, our whole system as a whole, it will allow customer management as well. Customer management relationships and service times, and also monitor a warranty period, and all of that is great for the user because they can keep track of it. When the service is due, they can book services with the installer, and all of that feeds right back to the installer, so it's kind of hands-off approach, which is really good for them. But
so the benefit of this is going to save the installer time and servicing and false diagnosis.
Yes.
All right. And also for the consumer, it's actually going to be cost effective, and also make sure the heat pump is operating at its premium.
Yeah, so that was one side of it. So the installer side is one side, but the consumer side is the other. And from a consumer perspective, heat pumps are a bit daunting. They're a bit scary. There's a lot going on, and so ultimately, a consumer just wants a warm house and a hot shower in the morning.
They don't want too much technology.
No, exactly. They want to keep it simple, and they're far too busy. There's lots going on, and just want to come home to a warm house.
Yeah.
So, from a consumer point of view, it's allowing you to monitor the energy you're using, but really closely. This is 5-second intervals, so you can see immediately what's happening, and you can see what's happened whilst you've been at work, and you can see what's happened whilst you've been asleep. And you yourself, if you're granted the permission by your installer, can tweak that, and you can adjust when your hot water comes on, as you can now.
It's a great asset for when you're coming back from holiday.
Yeah, well,
just make sure the house is warm and the water's heated.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that aspect is not new. We're not pretending that you can already do that with systems that are available. But this is directly attached to the unit, and it blows the lid off of it, basically. So it's what we've tried to do is make this as transparent as possible. So the idea of fitting heat pumps is to make the world a better place, which is a really cheesy term, but it is ultimately trying to do that. And there's a lot of jargon, and there's a lot of misinformation. And so really, I think if you asked me what our ultimate goal is, it's to blow the lid off of all of the underlying information, which is kind of a bit of a gray area at the moment. There's new legislation coming in for this new technology, and we just want to make it completely visible to anybody who wants it, so that they can make their own decisions based on whether they buy one or not, whether they have a bigger unit fitted or a smaller unit fitted, how much they want to spend on electricity. It's just empowering people with information.
Not bad for Plymouth, educated in Plymouth, all right, and start your business in Plymouth.
Yes,
So this is exactly what Plymouth needs. In actual fact, it's entrepreneurs who actually have a great idea and take it on in Plymouth and develop that idea from that base. So from a Plymouth point of view, we're really, really grateful. All right. That you're staying in Plymouth, you're keeping this technology in Plymouth, and you're investing in Plymouth, which is really good. So the one question, because we've talked quite a bit even before this podcast, we're on the journey here sort of thing, but the one question I haven't asked yet, all right, is I know you're busy, all right, and so forth. And for a tech, so for someone who's very technical, you've explained it very, very well. So you've done pretty well. If I can understand it, I'm sure many other people can understand it as well.
Good.
But one question I want to ask you: what do you do for fun?
For fun, I don't get a lot of time. Before the business, I had a lot more free time. I'm really into water sports, so I water ski and wakeboard and jet skis and boats and all that sort of stuff, which is really good fun. I've been doing that since I was about 9. So really into that. But I would say probably a release for me, sort of to do something which is completely different, is I DJ. So
Do you?
I'm really into music. And when I was younger and at uni, I used to do the local clubs in Plymouth and stuff. And
So we can book you as a DJ then, can we?
yeah, if you want to, yeah, absolutely. And I'm recently I've got all the kit and stuff, and it's only a hobby. I
Yeah.
don't really look to do it to make money or anything,
No.
but it's an escapism. I just like to do something completely different.
Well, it's worth knowing coming up to Christmas time that we can book you as a DJ,
Yeah.
all right? And maybe you could
Absolutely.
also explain more about Planet Devices and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
this is you got many other ideas coming, going forward. So I mean, that'll be quite
Yeah.
interesting to explore, at a
Yeah.
later date.
We've got so much we want to do,
Yeah.
and we've got everything planned out in a pipeline of of bits and pieces, and we can't stop talking about it internally and get really excited about it. But ultimately, everything comes down to resource. So we're a startup, and we're in Plymouth, and we're really trying to make every penny count, and we have to be very careful about how we deliver this greater plan. But yeah, we have a lot which is currently being worked on in drips and drabs. We want to use this with integrate in exactly the same way with solar panels, EV chargers, wind turbines, and that sort of thing. We also are trying to offer a pro version of this. So at the moment, this is our entry level bit of kit, and the pro version will be fully wireless, and will incorporate GSM, so you can pretty much bolt it to the side of a wall, and if you can get mobile phone signal, you can get internet signal, and other various technical advances in the hardware. But our portal side, that's never ending. That will never be finished.
Wow.
We've got so much we want to do, but at this point, everything is very much customer driven. So we're talking to local companies, local installers, end users, heat pump owners, trying to get some feedback about what it is they'd like to see. And the answer is never the same, as you can imagine. So everybody wants something different. So we sort of came to the conclusion that, okay, we're going to have to cater for it all. We're going to have to do the fault codes. We're going to have to do the control. We're going to have to do the monitoring. So really, it's over to the users at this point. We've got to a point where it's functional, and we're just listening to feedback at this point.
Yeah, well, George, thanks for this podcast. This is
No
like
problem.
being tech made simple.
Good, I'm glad.
I've understood it, all right, and I hope many other people will understand it. But I do appreciate it, and you coming down, with you talking about your device from Planet Devices and so forth.
No problem. Thank you.
Wish
for having me.
you the best of luck. All right, thank you for doing this in Plymouth.
No problem.
We do appreciate that, and thank you also for listening to our podcast, Business Success Podcast. So great having you on board.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Anne.
Thank you.